Research has shown that to cultivate students' interest in science and technology, you can use many different types of interventions. Some of the most effective are about collaborative learning. When you put students together to talk about science, it really makes them more interested in the subject. Another way is by contextualizing learning. It means that one should make links, establish links between what is taught in class and the reality outside of class. Economics, environment, or just themes that we find in newspapers and stuff like that. Another way to promote interest would be to make students work in projects. This works quite well, in fact, but maybe it's because of the presence of collaboration or, well, other variables, but projects usually work quite well. And the last variable is the inquiry-based learning. When you give students the opportunity to make decisions in resolution of complex problems, usually students make these problems their own problems, and that motivates them a lot. So those variables are intervention mode, in fact, that produce really positive effects on students. When we talk about intuition in science education, we oftentimes talk about these responses that do not need a lot of cognitive processing. They're heuristics or ways to solve problems that come without having to think about them, that come very quickly. That's what we label intuitive. And there are other counterintuitive problems in science education where you really have to, light up the prefrontal cortex in order to control your thoughts, control them even consciously, and avoid certain interference, possible interference of those heuristics when they go against what you want to teach students. So this idea of interference is very important, and when you answer quite intuitively, it's sometimes because there is no interference. But when there is, when you see a problem, there you become conscious of what's happening, and therefore you must have control on the situation, and that is a very important part of science learning, I think. I think that the most important thing we have to do in the next decades would be to concentrate on the teacher, on its training, and to give him the tools, the cognitive tools, and the advice in order to produce the best effects, the most positive effects on students. I think that teachers are at the center of every educational system, and we cannot just forget about them. I think it would be a great way to improve education by going through them. The conference we've lived here is very useful for us researchers because we have exchanges, direct exchanges with other researchers. Sometimes we read their papers, and that's very interesting for us. We get a lot of things from doing that, but you cannot interrogate a paper. You cannot exchange or ask questions that it will not respond. But when the author is there is where you get real training for yourself. So I think these conferences are very useful for these meetings and for these conversations, sometimes outside of official activities, but they are quite useful and interesting for us.